Hello and welcome back, Shark-Hearers, to another episode of Deep Dives with Sharks. My name is Alex. I am still the same weirdo that you've been listening to since episode 1. Now, we've got another shark for you this week. It is another episode of regular planned programming, but we will go back to movie analysis and other things to talk about at some point down the road. Don't you worry. Now, I did want to find ways to interact more with the Shark-Hearers and decided that if I stream and play some fishy-themed games that I can chat with you all in between episodes, that'd be a decent way to do it. So you guys can follow along on Twitch. It's got the same name as the podcast, but there's just no spaces, so it'd be Deep Dives with Sharks with capital letters for Deep Dives with Sharks. Just easy enough there. I don't really have a schedule right now for streaming. I'm settling into work and such, so it'll smooth out. I'm trying to do at least once a week, if not twice a week. I think I was aiming for like Tuesdays and Saturdays maybe, but we'll see if that actually pans out or if I change anything. You can follow along on the Instagram for updates there. I tend to mention when I'm going to go live and also what game I'm going to be playing. So if you guys want to follow along there, you are more than welcome to. You can also send questions that way or over on the Instagram or Twitter at Deep Dives with Sharks on Instagram and Twitter at Deep Dive Sharks. So the shark that we have for this week is going to be the angel shark. Now, to start off, the angel shark is the only member of the Squintinidae family. Other sharks like makos, tigers, and great whites share common families with other sharks, but not the angel shark. They're all alone by themselves, being cool little bottom dwellers, which is neat. They tend to look and get confused for rays a lot. They have a flat body with long pectoral fins that create a diamond shape that we normally see with rays. They do have a wider tail than rays, though, as rays do tend to have that really thin whip-like tail. The angel shark tends to have a thicker shark-like tail, and it also has two dorsal fins that are rather small, but they sit on top right before the tail there, so they've got that as well. They don't have any fins on their underside, so where their belly is, and their face is rather blunt, adding to that ray appearance, because of course when you're looking at a cow nose ray, they have that really blunt face there. Their eyes are small and located on top of their head right before their 5 gill slits, so that's really neat as well. They got those little eyes that help to see, especially for how they hunt, which we'll talk little bit more about later. These guys grow to be about 7 feet or 2.1 meters and weigh about 77 pounds or 35 kilograms, which, golly, that is a decent-sized shark. This actually did surprise me, since in pictures they look like they're about 3 feet long or maybe about a meter. And I was playing an aquarium game on stream and threw probably 5 of these guys in an aquarium that was way too small. And I was shocked to find out how big they actually get. And the game did kind of yell at me a little bit as they were trying to grow and they could not, but we got it figured out. They're all in different tanks now. It works out. But a neat thing about these sharks is that they can get deformities such as scoliosis, humpback curvature, missing or additional fins, deformed snout, and others, which is neat that it can happen, but not neat to the shark that it is happening to. It's actually rather disappointing for them. These can occur due to a variety of reasons, including nutritional imbalance, parasites, genetics, traumatic injury, which, I mean, yeah, that one would kind of easily explain missing fins. You know, you get hit by a boat, that might happen. Also, stress can do this to them as well. Now, deformities can affect the shark in different ways, such as mating, eating, and swimming, although it may not have any effect on them at all. So they could have scoliosis and just be completely fine, or that humpback arch and just kind of go about their day. Other times it makes it a lot harder depending on how severe it is. Now, the angel shark has jaws that can snap upwards and pointy teeth almost like needles to help catch their prey, as they are ambush predators, often burying themselves in the sand to camouflage, so that the prey swim right up to them before they're snatched up to be a snack. Now, this is kind of similar to what the wobbegong does. As we talked about them before, the wobbegong tends to hang out among coral reefs, and they'll stay perfectly still for hours at a time, and when fish swim up thinking that they're safe, they'll snatch them quickly. But the difference is that the angel shark is a bottom dweller, so it will stay on the sandy floor, cover itself in sand, and then when prey swims above it, it'll lunge upwards. Kind of neat. Now, these sharks tend to live in shallower water, anywhere from 3 to 100 meters, or 9.8 to 328.1 feet. And they often live just off the coast of Norway, Sweden, Morocco, and the Canary Islands, although their numbers have been declining due to overfishing, so these numbers could sway as they are sometimes found in Belize and Brazil as well, but it's not completely common. Thankfully, many countries have aimed to help their numbers by placing fishing bans and similar protections on other vulnerable populations in the waters, which does also help the angel shark. Now, since 2010, the angel shark has been critically endangered due to bottom trawling in particular, which is a type of fishing practice. Efforts are still continuing around the world to protect this species, especially in Greece and Turkey currently, which are countries I did not name earlier, but like I said, the numbers do tend to sway pretty much everywhere. Now, efforts go so far that there is currently a group known as the Angel Shark Conservation Network that works with countries to get set up different protective measures for angel sharks in particular, and sometimes that does involve protecting the prey that they hunt and sometimes the predators that would hunt them. It saves one part of the ecosystem, you can save a lot of the ecosystem as well. There are 5 different species of angel shark, including the Australian angel shark, Pacific angel shark, sand devil or the Atlantic angel shark, Japanese angel shark, and the monkfish. Now, they vary in size and build, but they are all beautiful in their own ways, which is really neat. Beginning in 1977, these sharks were hunted initially to be crab bait, which is kind of lame. I mean, I am from Baltimore, and we do love our blue crabs very much, but I mean, you can use a catfish. You can use a crawfish. You can use so many different things. You can use a chicken neck. There are so many things you can use besides a shark. But anyway, so they weren't really hunted that often at first. But then there was a commercial fisherman, and there was one person in particular who was named, but I'm not going to name them as they don't even have like a Wikipedia page or anything like that. So I didn't want to randomly throw some person under the bus if I can't actually prove it, but whatever. But they were the ones that helped to create a vast market for these sharks, which then estimated killed about 90,000 of the species, which is absolutely horrible. In 1991, gill nets were officially banned in California to help protect many animals that fell victim to bycatch. And in 2008, the UK granted angel shark full protections. So the neat thing is that these sharks are getting protected. The bad news is that in some countries, it is still really hard to find them and really hard to protect them. But at least there are some services that are looking to do that, and hopefully it will continue into the future. But that is what I have for the angel shark. If there's anything that you guys would like to add or anything that you want me to talk about further, please send it over to the Instagram or Twitter, or you can even ask it in chat on the Twitch, and I will be more than happy to add it to the correction corner in the next episode. But going into shark safety, this week we have how to help an injured or beached shark, which this information I got from masslive.com, MASS, as in Massachusetts. I will say that when I tried Googling how to help an injured shark, because many of you had asked about that before, Google was like, yeah, of course, you're trying to figure out how to help someone that's been injured by a shark. Yes, here's information on that. And I was like, no. Help injured shark is then when I tried breaking it down. I tried searching so many different things, and it kept being like, here's how you make a tourniquet. You need to control the bleed. And I'm like, no, this is not for the shark. This is for the human. I'm like, how do we help a shark that's hurt? And they're like, don't. And I'm like, okay, great. But I could not find too much. This is what I found on that. I'm going to keep trying to look into that, so we'll probably get more updates on that later. But I do feel like I start many of my safety segments with I've talked about this before, but I definitely know I've mentioned some tips about this, and we're going to look a bit deeper into it. I know previously I've mentioned like where to push the shark from and try to do this versus that, but this one we're going to go a little bit on a different route. So the Mass Live article got input from John Chisholm, who is a shark expert that gave a talk at SharkCon, which is very neat. He talked about tagging white sharks up in New England as he works with the New England Aquarium, which is really cool. And it was a really neat speech to hear, so definitely recommend doing that. Either meeting him, listening to him, or something like that. But when finding any beached animal, your safety has to come first. Many of these animals will weigh hundreds, if not thousands of pounds, which can be very hard to move. I do cardio, but if I came up to a 600-pound great white, I'm not going to be able to move that on my own, as much as I like to think I'd be able to. It's just not going to happen. If you have people around you that are able to help, that can give you a better chance. But also, if you can't move it, please do not hurt yourself, throw out your back, anything like that, trying to move this animal. It also does depend on where the animal is in relation to the water. So if they're in a couple inches of water, that typically will help to get them moving a little bit more. But if they got caught in a tide change, they accidentally beached themselves when it was high tide, and now it's low tide, and they're a good couple feet from the water on sand, you're not going to move them a whole lot because that sand loves to give way, and you're just going to be running. It's like when tires are in mud or snow. They're just going to be spinning, and you're not going to be moving. So you want to be careful there. Don't hurt yourself with that, especially if these animals are very, very heavy. And of course, one thing to check as well is if the animal's even still alive. Just because you find a beached animal doesn't mean it's guaranteed that it's going to still be alive. So one thing to do is kind of toss water on it, see if it moves, or if there's like any sort of motion with it. Don't go kick it, poke it, stick your hand in its mouth, nothing like that. That's just not the right move. Just try to throw some water at it, because usually that will have some sort of reaction like, oh, yay, relief. You also want to try to contact a lifeguard, local authorities, local aquariums, or animal rescues to come help the animal. Now, one thing to mention is we did just have Hurricane Helene come through, and as a Marylander that was down here for, this is probably the closest storm that's come to me so far. I don't know how y'all keep doing this. This was wild for me. I was in a tropical storm warning and still was like, holy crap, that's crazy. And I looked across the street and people were in my apartment complex gym. So we lived, we're good. But one thing that I did like was before the storm hit, there was a lot of pages that were putting out different phone numbers to contact if you find animals in places that they shouldn't be. Because, of course, with all the flooding, you're going to have animals that are over in the Gulf that then discover they've got new territory unlocked. Manatees especially are ones that love to try to explore new areas, which is really cool, except for when that water goes back down and now you've got that big rock just sitting in the middle of the road. So instead of trying to roll a manatee down the road or anything like that, because that might hurt it, there's different numbers you can contact. One specifically for the Tampa Bay area is going to be the Clearwater Marine Aquarium. They are a rescue-only aquarium, so all of their animals in there are either being rehabilitated to be released again, or they're unable to be released, and that is why they will stay there forever. They have a nurse shark that was someone's pet at one point, so they have a lot of cool things. But they've traveled really far before. I think I've seen them travel 4 hours up the coast at some point to help different animals, so they're a really good resource to contact. Definitely go with your local aquariums. I know the Baltimore Aquarium has been one that has traveled to Ocean City to help with different animal rescues, seal releases, things like that. They've also helped many cold stunned turtles. So there's lots of ways that an aquarium that may not even be too close to you or that you think is that close to you will still be able to help. Even if you call an aquarium that you know. No, I'm not suggesting that if you're in Tampa, you call the Baltimore Aquarium. You've got two right near you, Clearwater or Tampa. The Florida Aquarium, sorry. So you can call them, and even if you don't know and say like you call the aquarium over in Fort Lauderdale, they'll still be able to get in contact with the aquariums over here, or they'll be able to give you information to contact them yourself. So that way you'll still be able to help them, which is really cool, because I do love that aquariums will work that way instead of just being like, that's not our territory, get away from me. So they'll do something like that. But you shouldn't put yourself near animals' head or mouth. You do also want to watch for their tail as well, especially when it comes to sharks. They have a lot of powerful muscles in their tail, which is why great whites can breach so far out of the water. Same issue with whale sharks is that they have all those muscles, so getting smacked with it could hurt quite a bit. So you want to be careful if you're trying to rescue them, because if the shark starts thrashing, that tail can hit you and that can do some damage. The animal's not going to understand that you're there to help. They just know that there's somewhere they haven't been before, and now some weird alien is touching them, which would freak you out too if you're in that situation. If the animal has unfortunately passed at this point, you still want to alert local authorities so that way they can dispose of the animal properly. Don't try to get rid of it yourself or start chopping it up or anything like that. You guys may have heard the story of Exploded Whale Beach. I forget what state that was in. I believe it was in the New England area. But there was a beached whale many, many years ago, and they did contact authorities. But at the time, authorities thought it'd be really cool and really funny to see if they could just dynamite explode this whale back into the water. But the person that was in charge of setting all that up didn't do it right. So they announced that they were going to do it, and got a crowd of people to come watch, and then proceeded to explode a whale, and the chunks landed on people. So it's if you have dynamite, don't blow up a whale or a shark or a manatee or any. I don't even know why you need TNT or anything like that. Just don't do it. That's all I got to say about that. But with this, another thing to consider is that if you try moving the animal on your own, you could injure the animal. So anyone who has crowd surfed has found a random bruise on themselves that they didn't realize they had as people push them across the crowd. You don't want to unintentionally push against the manatee's liver and hurt them. That being said, I also have no idea what the anatomy of a manatee is, besides they look like a potato on the outside. So I have no idea if pushing their liver is even possible, but I don't think that also rolling them down hot asphalt would be comfortable for them either. So this is why you want to alert authorities. In many areas, it's also illegal to touch wildlife for any reason, which could get you into trouble. So knowing if helping this animal is acceptable in your area would be beneficial. Now, some places will kind of push that rule under the rug if you're trying to get an animal back in the water. But I also know that others, when people have posted videos of them getting an animal back in the water, then still fine the people for touching the animal at all, which is crazy to me. But of course, they also don't want people going out of their way trying to hurt themselves to help an animal. So this is kind of priority number one. So to recap, you want to keep the animal in some kind of water if possible, and try to get water moving over their gills. Unless they're an animal that breathes air, such as a manatee, then you just want to try to get water on them so that way they don't dry out. Kind of neat. But that there is what I have for the safety portion. I will try to look more into it in case you find an injured shark out in the water. See if I can find anything for coming up future episodes. But we're going to go on to the news. So we have two different stories once again. The first one comes from New Zealand, and the title is New Zealand Scientists Discover New Spookfish Living Deep in the Pacific. This is from NBC News. Now, this is conveniently in time for Halloween, a little bit early, but we got a new spooky shark. So, the Australasian narrow-nosed spookfish was discovered to inhabit waters of Australia and New Zealand about 2,600 meters deep to 8,530 meters deep. Now, this is a species of ghost shark, so it's a new species of ghost shark, which is so exciting. I do love ghost sharks. They're also known as chimeras, and I have done an episode on them. You can check that out as well. But not much is known about them because they live so far into the depths, and it's very hard to get down to them. They do not know a lot about the species' lifespan, population size, or how they interact with the ecosystem, but researchers are hoping to be able to learn more about the species and the world around it, as we don't know a whole lot about the deep ocean as a whole, which is why it took us so long to get here and find this new shark. But researching this newly discovered species will also help to learn more about the ecosystem around it, and also help to find ways to protect it if it is endangered, although currently they do not have any sort of classification on it because they found a couple species of it, or a couple specimens, I should say. And in this case, they're looking into more of it, hoping to find out about the world around it. And, I mean, we recently found out about new types of octopi. I almost said octopuses. That's wrong, I think. Octopi, anyway. New species of octopi and also squid, as well as, what was the other one? Jellyfish. There was a really neat video of a jellyfish that researchers recently discovered in the deep ocean. So they are getting down there more frequently. Also with the new uncovering of the Titan submersible, which that's a whole nother rant for a different podcast. But anyway, but researching that too has made it so that way they can look at some of the wildlife around it. Recently, there's a video of them pulling the wreckage out a bit, and fish were swimming around it like, ooh, what you got here? So they were able to kind of study the fish behavior as well, which is neat. Now, I'm not saying go sink another submarine of some kind to get a cool shot of fish, but I mean, you know, fish like shipwrecks. But the other story that we have is another new shark. New shark species found, but marks a tragic discovery, and this is by Newsweek. So 2 new species in 1 week is incredible, and I, for one, feel completely spoiled. We also have a new species of hammerhead shark, which is known as the shovelbill shark. It was previously believed to be a species of bonnethead, but DNA samples in 2017 showed genetic differences between the sharks that would classify them as a different species. This process took time as we are only now just announcing that it is a new species, and the researchers needed to work with local fishers to collect tissue samples to have conclusive evidence. Science is very fun, but also demands a lot of respect. The shovelbill can be found from Belize to Brazil, so right now that's kind of the area that it's in. Currently believed to be endangered despite just being found. That's unfortunately the tragedy of it. Now, because of uncapped fishing practices in Brazil, these sharks can be caught and used for almost any purpose, such as crab bait. Thankfully, the researchers are currently working with Belize to create protections for this shark and similar fish so that more species do not become extinct, which did bring up a really interesting point in my brain. If we only just discovered this shark and it's already endangered, there has to have been many species that scientists hadn't discovered that went extinct before they were found or could be studied. Now, unfortunately, we won't really know unless we find fossil evidence or we get a neat little stat sheet at the end of our life of all the things that occurred while we were on Earth, which would be neat in my opinion, as I would love to know how many breaths I took or how many wild sharks I was near or how many sharks facts I told in a lifetime. Maybe for at least a couple billion, but here we are. This helps the numbers. But that is what I have for this week's episode. I want to thank you all for listening. Thank you all for sharing. I do please ask you to keep sharing. Keep coming back. Follow along on the Instagram, Deep Dives with Sharks, Twitter, Deep Dive Sharks, or on Twitch as well at Deep Dives with Sharks there too. You can send in any comments, questions, anything of the sort. You can also give this a rating on Apple or Spotify or wherever else you are listening to this. If they have a rating system and or comments, feel free to do that as well. Ratings are incredibly helpful as they make the podcast show up higher on Google results. So that way people aren't just, when they Google this, finding how deep a shark can actually dive. You get some facts. It's fun. But of course, I will see you guys in the next one. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to each other. And I'll see you next time.